The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. It's Thursday, and it's Thursday here in the United States before a three-day weekend, a weekend in which we take a few minutes, hopefully, to remember those who have served our country. Talking about Memorial Day, and, you know, it's a great day to take stock of some things and remember what's important and to give thanks and to have gratitude. I know whenever we're looking at a weekend, I know the rest of the world's like, oh, it's a time to celebrate and to have picnics, and a lot of times for those of us who have children on the autism spectrum, in actuality what it is a period of time in which we have less services. So sometimes the stress can heighten. I just want you to know that there are some things that you can do to be productive on the weekend and have it not be the long weekend from you know what. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today because we're talking about autism from a 360 degrees perspective. We've got a very exciting show for you. This entire show is meant to be interactive as it is every day, so we encourage you to participate and talk about the kinds of things that are important to you to get answers and resources for the things that you want to be doing, whether you're a parent, whether you're a teacher, whether you are somebody who works with kids on the autism spectrum as a therapist, or you yourself are the person who is on the autism spectrum. We know that you have questions. We know that you have things that you know that could share to help the rest of us. So participate. That's what we want you to do. Emily's going to cycle through some of the many different ways that you can be watching the show and participating. I will remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, lots of things to do. Check out the blog, but also sign up for our free newsletter. I've got some really important stuff coming for you if you'll sign up for the free newsletter. And then you'll see that there's a desktop, there's a computer screen there that on the computer screen, depending on what program you have, it might actually start to play, or you might have to click on the little triangle that's there on the screen. But if you do, you can be watching either the live show or the most recently recorded live show. And you can also click on the playlist that's up in the corner and cycle through the shows and find topics that are of interest to you. But to the side of that, there's a couple of white boxes that are there. One says Shannon is answering right now, which is hilarious to me because usually it's not me answering any questions. I'm asking questions. But you get the general drift of it. And below that is a box that is your opportunity to submit your thoughts, concerns, and questions. You can put your cursor there and start typing, hit enter, and it will show up here on my screen, usually within a couple of minutes. It's fairly instantaneous. And for free, you know, that's pretty good. Because it's totally free. You don't have to register. There's no login. You don't have to remember a password. Oh, good heavens. Password me to death. Right? I have a password for this and a password for that. And this one takes letters. This one, you have to have a symbol in it. What did we do before all this? I think we were calmer. So there's no password. There's no login. Nobody's asking for your home address. Nobody is asking for your credit card information. It's totally, totally free and totally anonymous, which is great, right? Now, the tough part about it is that we don't necessarily know how to get in touch with you. If you ask us something and you're not watching the live show, then right? Or if you say, oh, I'd like information about that study that you were talking about, I need to have an email address in order, or some way to contact you in order to do that. And from time to time, I will also tell you too that we'll have a question that will dump for whatever reason. So if you've asked a question and it didn't get addressed at any point, ask it again, because it might be that it's one that got dumped. And if you sent us an email and we didn't get back to you, send it again. Be patient with us, because sometimes we get bogged down. I get bogged down. In any case, we're so thrilled that you're here with us. We hope that in these next 2 hours, we can help you to get those answers and resources that you want. I do like to remind you at the start of the show that we have many experts on the show, and I'm not one of them. I'm a parent. My son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. By the time he was 3 years old, and I think it was the first or second week after his 3rd birthday, we were able to start quality ABA services, and that made all the difference. And now my son is about to be 11. We're just 2 weeks away from his 11th birthday. He's in a completely included 5th grade. Today he will give a speech. We thought it was going to be yesterday, but now it got moved to today. He'll be standing up in front of the class and he's done this many times, and he'll have his little PowerPoint presentation and be talking about the great state of Iowa. That was the state that he chose. And so, life is good, and we have so many things to be grateful for. And among those things are the fact that we got our child back. And it wasn't because we had more money than you have, because I assure you we don't. It wasn't because I was smarter, because if you watch the show, you see clearly that's not the case, right? But we got access. We were able to find other parents who helped us to know this is how you get the funding, this is where you need to go, this is what's going to happen. And we were CARD clients. So from time to time, I do wax poetic about CARD and what it means to me, because they gave me my child back. I refuse to be apologetic about that. I want you to know that there are many quality ABA providers out there. But I talk about CARD because it was our quality ABA provider. But what's important is that you get the answers that you need, and that you be able to do the right amount of ABA for wherever your needs are. And by the way, ABA has been shown to be very effective at creating progress, no matter the age of the individual who's on the spectrum, and no matter their ability. So if people say to you, oh, your child's too high functioning, they don't need ABA, you need to say that's not true, and or walk away, go to somebody else. All of our individuals on the spectrum can benefit from ABA, because truly all of us could benefit from ABA, right? If we want to create progress, ABA has been shown to be the most effective teaching tool that there is. As a former teacher, that means a lot to me. And I saw how this worked in my home with my son. So ABA is not the only thing we talk about, right? Because even if you're doing ABA, there's other things going on, right? And we all have to keep the hope, and we have to keep food on the table, roof over the head, and sanity somewhere in the neighborhood. It's not always at our own dining room table, but as long as it's somewhere in the neighborhood, then we're functioning in all pistons, right? So in any case, those are all the things that we will talk about. But remember, I'm not an expert. I'm just here in this with you, looking for the hope and hopefully finding the hope. All right. We like to start every morning with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to make sense of it. We'll give you an actual definition, which I then like to make fun of, because sometimes the actual definition is so convoluted that I don't know how anybody could understand it. And they're all, a lot of times, not all the time, filled with more jargon, where you could just spend your whole life looking up jargon words and never get to the meaning of anything. So that's why we give you a working definition, which then makes the BCBAs break out into hives. But we have to start somewhere, right? To get an understanding of these terms so that they make sense in our lives. All right. So you get the drift of what we're trying to do here. We're a little bit at a time, one word at a time. So today's acronym that we're introducing you to is EO. No, this is not an 80s rock band. EO stands for and of course I've drawn a complete and total blank on what it is. Establishing operation. All right, the brain has kicked in. I don't drink coffee, so it takes me a while. Okay, EO, establishing operation. It's a motivating operation that establishes or increases the effectiveness of some stimulus, object, or event as a reinforcer, thus increasing the current frequency of all behavior that has been reinforced by that stimulus, object, or event in the past. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why we make fun of the definitions. What? What does that mean? I can't even get anything that I can hold on to and go, okay, where's the verb? I don't get it, right? And obviously, hopefully I'm not the only one. So let's move on to our working definition. Establishing operation, some internal or external variable that makes particular reinforcers even more reinforcing, thus increasing the likelihood that you will engage in certain behaviors associated with accessing those reinforcers. Okay. Still no closer, right? So let's think about this for a second. Establishing operation, I like to think of it as what's on board. So because this could be used to your benefit, or this can be the thing that sinks your battleship. So I'm going to go on a day of errands with my son. I've got to get the errands done. There's nothing I can do about it. It has to be done. And so I can set myself up for success, or I can shoot myself in the foot before we ever get in the car. Whatever I've done to create an environment in which we're going to do these things is something to do with the establishing operation. So for instance, if we stayed up really late the night before and I didn't give him enough time to sleep and I woke him up late because of that, so that he didn't get enough time to do what he needed to do in the morning. My son likes to take a shower in the morning and sit in the shower and feel the water, and that wakes him up, right? But I let him stay up so late that now I don't have time for him to take the shower, so I'm hurrying him and saying, you know, we gotta go. And he likes to sit and eat his breakfast very calmly, but we don't have time, so I've packed it in a baggie and I say we're getting in the car, and I'm feeling anxious and I'm rushing him. So the establishing operation that I've created is that he's underslept, that I'm overwhelmed, he's overwhelmed, I'm rushing him, I'm already nagging at him. So that's what I've got on board right now. That's the establishing operation that I've got. So what is that making it more likely that something's going to happen? It's more likely that we're not going to have a good time. It's more likely that at some point, we're going to have an exchange that isn't going to go well. It's more likely that he's going to, especially if he's younger than he is now, that we're going to have a tantrum. I've set the scene for a tantrum to flourish, right? Because the establishing operation is creating an environment in which something is going to flourish. What I'm flourishing right now, I'm setting up for a tantrum. Could I have done it differently? Could I have made sure that he went to bed earlier? Could I have packed a snack for him the night before so that I'm not running around crazy? Could I have woken him up a little bit early so that he had extra time in the shower, extra time to sit and watch SpongeBob and eat his breakfast, so that by the time we get in the car, he feels completely like he has had his opportunity to do things? What kind of a background am I setting up there? Hopefully, and I've packed the snack already so that if his blood sugar bottoms out, I've got my contingencies in line so that I've set us up for things to more likely to be successful, for this outing to more likely be reinforcing for him. So establishing operations, what we have on board, what kind of a circumstance have we set up? You know that we've all done this, where you take the child someplace and it all goes to, we're in a handbasket, and then afterwards you go, well, he was overtired and I should have realized, right? So if we start to think about what establishing operations are, noticing them so that we can set ourselves up for success and use this a powerful tool. One of the places that you'll hear us talking about an establishing operation when you're doing potty training, perfect example. If we want to be more likely to be successful with potty training, how do we need to stage this environment so we're more likely to be successful? So the establishing operation is that we start feeding the child things that are salty. Why? Because then the child is more likely to want to drink. And if they're more likely to want to drink, then we're going to have more opportunities that they're going to go pee in the potty. We're more likely to catch that so that we can reinforce it. So the establishing operation is feed them something salty, which will lead to the drinking, which will lead to the peeing. Woohoo. If we wanted to do it wrong, what we would do is not encourage the child to drink, right? So hopefully, establishing operation, we want it to be something that's leading towards making it more successful, the behavior that we want to be teaching. But all too often, just in the course of living and being human beings, we find ourselves in establishing operations that are not useful for the moment. Start to notice that. And if you do notice, oh, wait a second, what we have on board right here is a bunch of stuff that's going to sink our battleship, that's a time to pull back and make a little bit less demands. Not give up entirely, but to pull back a little bit. Okay, so that's EO, not an 80s rock band. Establishing operation. All right, we always have a question of the day for you. Really interested to know what you guys will answer for this one. Want to know if you could change anything, what would you change? Anything. No holds barred here. So think about that. If you could change anything, what would you change? I read an interesting post on Facebook last night about a nurse had written an article, a nurse who helps people in hospice. So she's there a lot when people are in their last days and in their last moments of their life. And she talked about the 5 things that people most often regret on their deathbed. And I found it really interesting because, a lot of times it's easy to say, oh, well, if I could change anything, I would change this. But is that really what we want to change? So take a little while to think about this. And a lot of them I thought, oh, I don't think that's true. I don't think I would feel that way. Who knows? And hopefully I won't find it anytime soon. But the 5th one really got to me. It was, I wished I had been happier more of the time. And that's something that if I could change anything, I would change the fact that part of my process for most things is to worry about it. Oh, I'd like to have a worryectomy. And somebody on the show last week said that worry is anti-prayer. That's really been kicking my keister a little bit. But if I could change any one thing, I would find more time to be happy and be in acceptance about things than worrying about them. I'm the queen of not being in this moment. I'm always like rehashing something that happened or looking to the future about what, fabulous thing may happen. And I have to work really hard to stay in the present and say, what's happening right now? Ooh, that's hard for me. And I do think that part of the gift of autism in my life is that it has forced me on many occasions to work on that muscle about what's happening right now. I find it very ironic that I host a live show, right? Because I struggle with that more than anything else. And yet I know that joy only happens in the present. We can think about something in the past and smile about it and go, oh, that was fun. We can think about, oh, someday maybe I'm going to do this. But true joy only happens in the present. So you'd think I'd want to hang out there all the time, but it is, I'm just being honest here, it is tough for me. So if I could change anything, I would worry less, be more present. But I'd love to hear, and that many other times in my life, there are 38 million things I would have said instead of that. It's just a measure of how good things are right now, that's what I wish for. But I'd love to hear from you guys. What, if you could change one thing, what would it be? I was thinking the other day about the old joke that I used to love to tell about the woman who was walking on the beach and found a genie lamp. And she thought, my goodness, could that really be a genie? And she rubbed it, and the genie popped out and said, I'm here, I will grant you any wish, but think carefully before you ask for it because you can only have one wish. And the woman said, really? One wish? What happened to 3 wishes? I'm supposed to have 3 wishes. And he said, inflation. There's only one wish. Think carefully. What do you want? And she said, okay, I've thought of it. And he said, all right, what do you want? And she says, I want thin thighs. And he says, thin thighs? What, are you kidding me? Lady, there's poverty, there's famine, there's people who are sick, there are wars, and you're wishing for thighs? What is wrong with you? Think about everybody else in the world. And she says, oh, okay, fine. Thin thighs for everyone. So I know it's lame, but, think carefully. If you could change one thing, what would it be? and then we'll check in a little bit later on to see what you guys would like to change. I'm very interested. We always have a topic of the week, something that we focus on. This week is no different, and this week we're focusing on obstacles and removing them. But before you can remove them, you have to identify what they are, right? So we're going to find some time today to talk about, once we've identified what the obstacle is, what we need to do. I love the book. I meant to bring it in this week. I'm going on a bear hunt, because the family says we're going to go on a bear hunt, and they keep running into obstacles. And the first obstacle is that they run into mud. And the phrase that they say over and over in the book is, we can't go over it. We can't go under it. We have to go through it. Ooh, right? And they make it through all the obstacles. So we're going to spend a little time talking about that. In fact, some of the different things that we're going to be talking about today. Can't get my thing to swipe. We have Dr. Adel Najdowski, who's going to be joining us via Skype in just a few minutes. We call that segment Real Progress with Dr. Adel. We've got some very specific questions for her about skills that have come in. And if we have time, we have scheduled to talk to her about lying. Why is it important to teach lying, and how do we do it to our kids? You may think, I don't want my child to learn how to lie, but it's a really important skill that is necessary. So if we have time, we'll talk about that. We are going to talk about when you decide something's got to change, because a lot of times when we realize there's an obstacle, we have to change something, and usually it starts with us. It can be scary. So we're going to find some time to talk about that. And then later in the next hour, we have Science Beat. Dr. Jonathan Tarbox is here. I promised some of you yesterday that we would get him to answer some of your questions that you wrote in, because Dr. Dorian Granpeche wasn't with us yesterday, and he's very excited to be able to do that. So all of that and ever so much more here on Autism Live. Stick with us. We'll be right back after these messages.
Hi guys, welcome back to Smarty. This month we're going to be making a mandala. Mandala, you ask? What's that? Well, in Sanskrit that means circle, and you'll see what I mean in just a moment. Okay, the materials you'll be needing for this project are colored paper, scissors, and glue. I'm assuming a lot of you guys have made paper snowflakes before. Well, this is the same idea, except for we're going to be doing it with A, lots of color, and then B, we're going to be layering it up. So, first step we're going to have to do is fold the piece of paper, so when we cut it out, there's going to be a repeating pattern on it. So what you're going to do is fold it in half, and then you're going to fold it in half again. Make sure your lines are super creased, okay? And you're going to keep doing this. You're going to keep folding it in half as many times as you can possibly fold your paper. So now that this is folded in half as many times as I physically can fold it, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut out the excess. So here's the paper with all the excess cut off. If I open it up, boom, it's a circle, but it's missing all the wonderful patterns in here that repeat. So let's fold it back up. And what we're going to do now is we're going to cut the shapes in it. Kind of like a snowflake. So get creative here. Remember, don't go all the way through, or else you're gonna just cut in half. So have fun with it. Okay, since my paper is, as you saw earlier, double-sided with different colors, I'm gonna cut out the center part and I'm gonna flip it. I know that sounds crazy, but you'll see what I mean in a second. All right, so let's open this up and take a look at it. Ooh, so you see that? I've got a perfect circle with a repeating pattern, exactly what I wanted. All right, so I've cut out the center part that I cut out for my whole circle, and let's open it up. Look at that, it's another circle, but it's smaller. I'm gonna take this and place this in the inside. So the basic idea of the mandala is you're gonna take your construction paper, fold it like I just showed you, and then cut different sized triangles, which will turn into circles, so there'll be layers of colors with the pattern. And of course, while you're doing this, you can talk about colors and to have them work on their cutting skills. So now that I've cut out several snowflakes, I am going to start gluing them down on a piece of paper. Here's my mandala. It looks pretty finished, and it can be. But if you have an older kid and you really want to hone in on working on pattern making, you can take this little scrap pieces that you cut out and have them add to the pattern themselves. Well, I hope you and your child enjoyed this project and learned a lot from it. Until next time, guys, craft on.
Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod, and it is time for a segment that we call Real Progress with Dr. Adel. Dr. Adel Najdowski is joining us right now via Skype. Dr. Najdowski, welcome.
Hi.
So thrilled to have you with us here this morning. And for those of you who haven't watched before, Dr. Najdowski is one of the co-creators of Skills, an amazing program that I love to use. And she is someone who's so great at helping us figure out the roadmap to creating progress, which is what it's all about. So thrilled to have you via Skype. I know that you're getting ready to leave for ABAI, and in just a minute, we're going to talk with you about what you're going to be presenting on. But I wanted to start, Dr. Najdowski, with, we've had some questions that have come in about skills.
Okay.
You were here last week, and after you left, somebody apparently had a problem with the live feature, so they wrote, "Hi, I tried to write a question when Dr. Adel was on, but couldn't. I was wondering, I just started with skills and have to admit a bit overwhelmed with the questions, and I think that's par for the course. Make sure that you're doing it a little at a time. But is there a way to set parameters of what my son should know at 4, because some of the questions seem way beyond what and where he is at. So I know what he needs to know by 4 or 5 because he's just turned 4." And she said, "Thank you." And then I asked her to check and make sure that she put her age in correctly when she sent that in. But then she further wrote in and said that she was the one who wrote in about skills level question corresponding with the age. And she said, for example, one of the questions I'm getting is, can your child identify the conflict from the perspective of each child involved? His age is right in the skills account. Is my child just that behind at 4? Seems like a high skill for a 4-year-old. And they said, thank you in advance. So what would you like to say to this mom?
Okay, so first of all, the way that we do the ages and skills is in 1-year bins. So what that means is that if a skill emerges at 4 years, 11 months, it's still going to be in the 4 to 5-year-old bin. So it sounds like your son just turned 4, and a lot happens in 1 year. A lot of progress can be made, and you'll be shocked by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So that is quite possible that it's on the tail end of that year that kind of skill would be in check. And also keep in mind that the ages are not necessarily like every child has the skill completely intact or something and they're doing it perfectly at that age. It's more like when it starts to emerge in child development. So not all kids are going to necessarily be able to do it by that age, but the reason why we include it in there as part of the assessment is because we want to make sure that the lessons that are associated with it are provided to you in the next step of skills, step 3, which is the activity library. If we didn't have an assessment question for that and your child was moving quite along and you needed that, you wouldn't be able to get access to it. So we don't want to deny you access to things you could work on potentially. So don't get too overwhelmed with all that stuff. And just look at the lower level skills. All of our skills are in levels. And if you want to, you can, instead of doing the entire assessment at once, you can actually do the assessment based on levels. So you might want to assess just maybe levels 1 through 3 for right now. All of our lessons come in at levels based on difficulty. So level 1's like the easier lessons, and then it gets more and more difficult as the level number goes up. And so that way, if you already have things that you're answering no to for the question, so you're saying no, he can't do these things, and you have plenty of those within levels 1 through 3, then you might be able to quit answering assessment questions for right now and feel a little less overwhelmed and start introducing some of those items into treatment and working on them. I know that some people get hung up because they feel they need to finish the entire assessment before they can even start treatment, but that is not the case if there's already things that you could be working on in the lower levels.
Okay, good advice. I want to go back to this idea of emerging, because I was thinking about this the other day. I have a friend who has a completely neurotypical son who's 18 years old. Excuse me. And a friend of hers was kind of giving her grief because he can't do his own laundry. She's still doing his own laundry from beginning to end. And the friend was saying to her, okay, come on, this is ridiculous. He's 18 years old. He needs to do his own laundry. As I said, completely neurotypical. And she and I were talking about it, and she said, But, you know, when was I supposed to start teaching that? Because the truth of the matter is, I don't know when being able to do laundry skills actually emerges, but we all know that there are things that lead up to it before somebody can do their own laundry, like figuring out, you know, being able to bring the laundry to the laundry room, being able to sort it by colors, then being able to do the machines, and that you could start working on those kinds of things with somebody who's even 2 years old, of being able to sort colors. But you wouldn't expect a 2-year-old to do the laundry.
Right.
But it's also hard that now at 18, she's got to start and teach that whole lesson completely from scratch. So I just was thinking about and thinking, okay, that's really what the emerging skill is about, because you might say that a 2-year-old, that the doing laundry might begin to emerge then because you can be working on those precursors. Am I in the neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, like my daughter is 5 now, but I think when she was 4, she started helping me to fold the clothes. And, you know, some of them are harder, so I started with just letting her do the washcloths, because, I mean, it's like 2 folds. And then she got good at that and liked it, so then we went to, like, hand towels, you know. Again, so now, you know, she can pretty much fold all my towels exactly how I want them, and we've progressed into different things like socks and stuff like that. But, you know, also sorting the laundry, like you said. I've taught both my kids, who are 5 and 9, how to sort the laundry by darks versus lights or whites or whatever. And they're really good at it. At first, it was a little bit weird, but they get it now. So, yeah, I mean, you can start working on things, different components exactly is what it is, of these bigger chunks of skills. Just break them down into units, and you can pick little components and begin teaching those at younger ages.
Yeah, and then you end up with an 18-year-old who knows how to do laundry, and it feels like it was seamless and it wasn't a big deal because you worked on those things. So the emerging skill, and as you were saying, those other skills that lead up to it, that's going to be so important. And I appreciate the fact that you didn't leave those skills out of skills just because, you know, I mean, being able to take everybody's perspective may start to emerge at 4, but we all know 45-year-olds who are still struggling with this, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So, but you get a way to start to begin to, you know, walk into the wading pool to start to work on these things. All right, we're going to take a short break. Then we're going to come back with a question that we had comparing skills and the VB Mapp. And then we're going to ask Dr. Najdowski to talk to us a little bit about what she's going to be speaking on and presenting on at ABA International. So stick with us. We're going to be right back with Dr. Najdowski.
Okay.
Hello, activists. Let's talk about step 7. Recognize your gifts and abilities. Whatever gifts and abilities you had before autism entered your life, you have them now. And I bet you've developed some that you didn't even know you had. Those gifts and abilities are going to help you in your journey of parenting a child with autism spectrum disorders. Maybe you're a born researcher, teacher, negotiator, or organizer, where you're going to need all of those talents. And you could find a whole new calling. That's what happened to me. If you had told me 20 years ago that I was going to leave behind a career as a television producer to work as an autism advocate and activist, I would have said, you're nuts. If you don't think you have any special gifts or abilities, ask someone who loves you. They'll tell you what they are. I guarantee you, you have them. What's your special gift? Find it, use it, for yourself, for your child, for the good of all concerned. Until next time, keep the faith.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Real Progress with Dr. Adel. Dr. Adel Najdowski is here with us via Skype. She's one of the co-creators of Skills, and we had a question that came in regards to Skills. They want to know how Skills and the VB Mapp are similar and how they are different. So maybe you could take one brief second here at the start, Dr. Najdowski, to tell us a little bit about what the VB Mapp is.
The VB Mapp is just a very popular assessment in the ABA field. It was developed by Mark Sundberg. Its intention is to identify the skills that kids need to learn for mostly language skills, but it also includes some other areas as well. Okay. The way that it is similar to Skills is that both of our assessments are In terms of when we assess language, we subdivide it similarly. So we subdivided according to Skinner's functional analysis of language, where he identified different verbal operant types. So we actually have questions to look to see if kids are doing each of those different kinds of verbal behaviors. So we kind of use the exact terminology, I guess you could say, in terms of looking at echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals, which are different kinds of subtypes of language. So that's one way that we're similar. The way that I would say that we're different is that the ages at which we are focusing in on are a little different. So I think the VB Mapp goes up to 48 months or 4 years of age, whereas skills goes up to more like age 10 or 11. We also, in skills, we don't just mainly assess language. Although I know that the VB Mapp does go beyond just language, it's not as comprehensive once it goes beyond language. So once it's getting into things like social skills and play skills and whatnot, it becomes a little less comprehensive. Whereas our assessment is supposed to be comprehensive across 8 different areas of functioning. 2 major ways we're different is that we have a very comprehensive assessment for executive functions, and we have a very comprehensive assessment for social cognition, or what we also refer to as perspective taking, and then also an extremely comprehensive social skills assessment as well. So some of the areas, I guess, in which it assesses is also different. Also, our assessment has got some psychometric research on it, showing both that it's the language subscale is reliable, and also showing that the entire assessment is valid. And we have published both of those 2 research studies. I think that makes us the only ABA-based assessment that actually has any psychometrics on it. And then last, I would say, is that skills is also a curriculum, whereas the VB Mapp is an assessment. So those are the main similarities and differences.
Okay, so once you take the assessment in skills, you can plug it directly into lessons that you can teach, where the VB Mapp, it just is an assessment to see where you are.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't provide you with lesson plans.
Right.
The thing is they do a good job of making it pretty intuitive, to where each of the items that you're testing, you can kind of get an idea of how you would turn that into a lesson. I think anyone who's familiar with ABA treatment would have no problem doing that. However, I don't know that parents necessarily would know how to do that.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not technically a curriculum because they don't have lesson plans.
Remarkable. Okay, I just learned something, so that's great. I wanted to take a second, Dr. Najdowski, because you are getting ready to leave to go to a conference, ABAI, so ABA International. And this is a yearly event that happens. Tell us a little bit about what the conference is for.
So the conference this year is going to be in Chicago, and it's our international conference for our association. And the main point of it is to get together and provide continuing education opportunities. And so it's really nice because it's the entire field of behavior analysis. It's not an autism conference by any means, although obviously autism is a huge thing that a lot of people in our field do. So there is a lot of stuff there about autism. But you can go there as well and learn more about basic research with animals. You can learn about theory and philosophy of behavior analysis. You can learn about how it's being applied to other areas such as fitness and obesity and businesses through organizational behavior management. So they have different tracks like that. And whatever you're into, they're going to have a whole track worth of things you could go see. And so it's a really good opportunity to learn what's new and up and coming in research. So that's basically the point, is that people present their latest and greatest findings in research so that people can stay up to speed with the science and the changes that are happening within the field. And it's also just a really awesome experience for people who have been in the field for a while, because it becomes a little bit of a family reunion, because our field is so small that when you go there, you end up seeing a lot of people that you've met years back and things like that. And it's really, in addition to being educational, it's very fun. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Emily and I got to go to the one 2 years ago that was held in Seattle, and we had a really good time and met some amazing people. We have a whole series of interviews that we did while we were there, and you guys can look for them on our YouTube channel. I found it absolutely fascinating, and there was a meeting there about how parents could be attending the conference as well and be learning, and it there was sort of a a warm-up of showing parents, here are some choices and here's how you can get the most out of the conference. I want to encourage anybody who's in the Chicago area or willing to go to the Chicago area over the next couple of days. It's an educational opportunity for you. It will blow your mind. It's sort of like Disneyland on steroids if you want to learn about ABA, because you can't do it all in one day. In fact, you can't do it all in 5 days. You have to make decisions about where you're going to go and what you're going to do and what you're going to see, but there's so much to see and do. I loved when they would have the display of papers every 2 hours. They would take a ballroom that was like the length of a football field, and it was sort of like the science fair for ABA. Was what I thought it was. And there would be people standing by their papers.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the poster sessions?
Oh my gosh, we just went to Jem's first science fair, and I went, oh, this reminds me of being at ABAI. But with like high level people standing there saying, here's the research that I did, here's what we learned. Oh my goodness, I could have spent a year there.
Yeah, that's pretty fun.
It was very fun, but so many different things to do. And then there are speakers speaking on lots of different things. So tell us what you are going to be presenting on, Dr. Najdowski.
So I'm doing a workshop on Saturday morning on teaching perspective taking skills to children with autism. It's 3 hours long from 8 to 11 in the morning. I've been working on it all week with my colleague, Angela Persicki, and we're really excited because while I've given similar workshops in the past, this one is new and has new material, and we've got all sorts of video clips and little activities we're going to be doing, so we're going to try to make it really fun. And then on Tuesday, the last day of the conference, I have a presentation in the morning at 9 a.m. It's a symposium, and it's kind of an opportunity for us to show some of the research we're doing at CARD on the different tools that we've developed. So I'm going to be doing a presentation showing a study we did on the BIP builder that's in skills, showing that it actually made our staff's BIPs more function-based than they were prior to using that tool. And then Jonathan's doing a presentation on the validation of the skills assessment. As I was saying earlier, we recently validated the skills assessment, so he'll be showing those data. And that one's amazing because I think we probed we had 35,000 probes. That just means tests that we did with kids to get those data and showed that it was valid. And then we have Tasia Wells, another Cardian, who's doing a presentation on looking at the CARD indirect functional assessment, which is an assessment that is also in skills in the BIP builder, for looking to figure out what the function of a challenging behavior is. It's an interview basically, and they compared that to actually doing an actual type of experimental assessment where they can really key in and really find out for sure what the function is. So they're trying to see if they can validate that CIFA. I haven't even seen the data on that, and I'm super excited to see it. And then Jen Yakas, another Cardian in our symposium, is doing a presentation on how we're using or how we're conducting BCBA supervision and mentorship at the Institute for Behavioral Training. So, and then after that, we get to have Dr. Michael Dorsey, yay, is going to be our discussant. So it's a symposium of 4 presenters, and then at the end, Mike Dorsey gives a discussion and kind of gives us feedback on what he thinks about the research.
And as I said, you have to give my love to Dr. Dorsey. We enjoy him. He's been on the show several times, and he's one of our favorite guests. So make sure that you give him our condolences that we're not there and give him our love from Autism Live.
I definitely will.
So that's what you're going to be doing, and I'm just, feeling bad that I'm not going to be there to see it because I would love to see all those things. But I'm curious, because you're also attending the conference, what are you excited that you're going to see? Who are the speakers that you're going, okay, I can't wait to see this talk or this symposium? What are you interested in?
Well, I always go to all of the CARD talks, and we usually have a lot. So I think I have to go to a few different symposia for that just to support my colleagues. Mm-hmm. So that'll keep me pretty busy. But in addition to that, I was actually just starting to look at the schedule online right now and see what I want to go to. So I don't even necessarily know, but I always try to go to some of the heavy hitters, like some of the really pioneers of the field, because you never really know like how many more times you're going to get to see them speak. So I got to still check it out. I don't know for sure yet. It's kind of almost overwhelming actually, because there's so many options. We've gotten to be such a big conference. It used to be that we could be in a hotel and stay in the hotel and also have the conference in the same hotel we were staying at, which was very nice. This year we have to actually have it at a convention center, and so our hotel is not attached to it or anything. And it also kind of put us a little bit out. We can't walk out of our hotel and be downtown Chicago like we used to be able to, where you could just walk to restaurants and stuff. We're like 2.5 miles from any convenience store or restaurant or anything. So I don't know. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
I'll be eating,
Granola bars.
food court food.
Yes. Well, Emily, just to give people a scope, Emily and I, as I said, we went to Seattle, and part of the conference was in one building, and then another part was in another part down the street, and we ran. I swear I still have blisters on my feet from that weekend 2 years ago, because we would run from one building to get an interview, and then we'd run back to the other building to get another interview, and we missed things because we couldn't be in all the places that we needed to be, and we were just trying to find the autism track, which was happening everywhere all the time. And I would say that when we went 2 years ago, more than half of what was happening there it had nothing to do with autism. And we completely ignored all that stuff, and there was still too much for us to do when we were running around.
Yeah.
So it's a remarkable, remarkable event. We're thrilled that you're presenting, and we can't wait until next week when you tell us about some of the things that you heard and saw when you were there.
Oh, yeah. I'll be excited to tell you all about it.
Now, if I know that you've got a lot to do this morning, would you like to stay with us a little bit longer, or do you need to go?
I can stay with you if you'd like. No problem.
Okay, we would like for you to stay, because we'd like to talk a little bit about lying, but we're going to take a short break, and then we'll come back and talk with Dr. Najdowski about lying, why it's an important skill to teach, and how we go about it. So stick with us.
What is autism?
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 I've been asking myself that for a very long time.
Let me think about that one.
Trying to
Let me think. Oh man, that's a rough one. Yes.
Autism,
Autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them. Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
Always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
It's a movement.
Unpredictable.
Abstract.
Awesome. Love. The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these 3 words. There is hope.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Real Progress with Dr. Adel. Dr. Adel Najdowski is here with us via Skype, and we asked her to stay with us a little bit longer to talk about lying. This is the thing that most parents think, I don't want my child to lie, and if I have a child on the autism spectrum who's not lying, that they may interpret that as being a good thing. But it's important that we teach our kids lying, Dr. Najdowski?
Yeah.
Tell us why.
Well, it's something that's a skill that's needed in lots of ways. What is that movie? Have you guys seen that movie about where they can't lie? In
the invention of lying?
Yeah.
Yes, it's a pretty funny, irreverent movie, but it does show that if you don't lie, things are awkward.
The thing is that you're constantly hurting people's feelings if you're always telling the truth.
Yeah.
We're always thinking things we shouldn't be saying, and we're editing what we're saying, always, so that we're making sure we're thinking about how it will be interpreted by somebody else. So we're not talking about straight out lying, just saying, that kind of lying. We're talking about things that are adaptive. So, for example, if someone, got you a gift, your grandmother who's really old and knits you a sweater every year and gets you an ugly one every year, if you tell her they're ugly, you're going to hurt her feelings, and she's so happy and excited to give it to you, and she put so much time and effort into it. So you're not going to lie. I mean, you're not going to tell the truth. You're going to lie, and you're going to say thank you and that you like it.
Yeah, so we call these things white lies, right?
Yeah, so that would be like a white lie. We also have to lie when we're keeping secrets. So when someone tells you something in confidence and they don't want you to tell, and then someone else is asking you, you have to kind of pretend you don't know.
Right.
And that's lying as well. So maybe lying is not the best word to use. Maybe it's just deception. But we also do the same thing for keeping surprises. We might have to actually trick someone to think something is happening in order to pull off the surprise.
Yeah.
And
then isn't there an element, too, that we need to teach deception or lies for safety?
You mean like if there was a stranger coming to talk to them or something? Like, give me more specific.
Well, I'm thinking with Jem, you know, we always talk to him about don't tell people that you're home alone. He's never home alone, right?
That's
but we're
true.
preparing him for the time when he would be home alone. That if you were to open a door and somebody says, is your mom or dad here? And there will be a day sometime, not soon, but when we won't be there, and I don't want him to say to the person, no, she's not here, because that wouldn't be a safe thing.
Yes, definitely.
But again, we need to start that earlier, not teach it on the day that we need him to have the skill completely there.
Yeah.
So
also think about when you play games. A lot of board games or card games, they require some level of deception. You have to bluff and make people think you have really good cards or whatever, or you actually can't even win the game. Some games actually require the bluffing in order to win. If you're not good at doing that, you're never going to win, and you're going to kind of stand out as like the kind of like oddball, you know?
And even if you think about some of the things that fill our lives, dating is hard to do if you're not going to have any amount of deception, right? Being married, because when the wife says, you know, do I look fat in this dress? That's not the day that we want them to be completely true and honest, at least in my household. And applying for and keeping a job, there has to, you know, you're not going to sit down and spill your brains and say everything that you say. There are some things that you're going to keep to yourself, right?
Yeah, especially if you're managing people and upper management is coming down on you with certain things. You don't then go tell your people everything and freak them all out. You know, you got to remain calm and look like everything's going well and stuff like that. So it's just such a common thing that we need to do in so many different ways. It's definitely important to teach, but at the same time to also teach that we don't do hurtful lying. So we don't lie just to make ourselves look good or to get something we want or that kind of stuff. And so that's important to be a part of the lesson when we're teaching lying, is when is it appropriate to lie and how do you lie?
And so how do you teach that?
We basically help them. It's when they're going through the perspective taking curriculum, and we help them to figure out what the impact of that lie would have on another person. So if you said this, then how would that make that person feel? And then helping them to put themselves in the person's shoes and realize that it might really hurt them. And if it's going to hurt them, then that's kind of the signal that it's not a really good idea to do that lie.
And it's something that takes a great deal of practice, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Another thing, too, is that, you know, little kids, even starting like around the age of 4, they start playing like pranks and practical jokes and tricks on people, and that requires a bit of deception as well. And that's a whole other reason why it's good, is it actually creates humor in those instances.
Yeah.
Like being able to tell jokes requires deception. And I think humor is a really good thing for us to teach our kids. It helps them to make more friends and things like that if they can be funny. And a lot of times you need a little deception to be able to do all that as well. Usually you give up the deception later. It's like temporary. And then later you go, ha, gotcha, or whatever, and that kind of thing. But
right. I remember when Jem was turning 8 and he was finishing his therapy. And we were having a big party to celebrate that he was done with therapy. And we were on our way to the party, driving over, and I was having a conversation with him saying, you know, remember this and remember that. And I said, what are you going to do if somebody gives you a present that you already have one? Because this had come up so many times in his life where he'd open the present, he'd look at it and he'd go, I'd already have this, and he'd toss it like it meant nothing to him. And it used to make me so embarrassed, right? And so we've been talking about that, and I said, what are you going to do if you open a present that somebody, you already have one? And he said, I'm going to say, thank you so much, I love this. And I said, oh, okay, and why are you going to do that? And he goes, because Mom, they took the time to pick that out because they thought I would like it, and I don't want them to feel bad. And if I told them I already have it, they might feel bad. And it was the first time I had been sort of dragging my feet thinking, we're not done with therapy. We're nowhere near done with this. And we were on the way to the party that he's done with therapy. And I went, maybe you don't need therapy anymore. That's awesome. You know, it's so important. But that took so many lessons and so many opportunities to get him to that day when he got it completely on his own. He was like, Mom, they you know, they cared about this. They thought, they like stood for a while and looked at toys before they picked the one because they thought I would like it. I don't want them to feel bad about it. I went, wow, there's so much perspective taking there.
Yeah.
And then he very effectively lied. And when he got toys that he'd already had before and was very sweet about it, it was a very proud moment.
Oh, so he actually, you got to see him do it then after that?
Yes, he absolutely did that and was very...
And did he do it? Did he do it? Did he pull it off? Did people believe him?
He totally pulled it off. You know, but his dad is a really good actor, so I think that, you know, he's had some lessons there. So, awesome. Yeah, he did. He totally pulled it off. And there was one toy that I didn't even realize that I remember him saying to the person, thank you so much, I really love it. And afterwards when we were going home, and you know, there's a certain amount of toys that you go, okay, well, you know, we'll exchange this or whatever. And I put that toy in the pile of things that we were keeping, and he goes, oh, no, I already have one of those, that's going back. And I said, oh, I believed it when he said thank you so much. So he sold it. He definitely sold it. But teaching lying is so important. And as we said, white lies. So that is in which curriculum in skills?
That's in the cognition curriculum. It's our perspective taking curriculum. So yeah.
And it's under deception.
Yeah.
I always love the story, the card story, and I actually know the parents that did this, they'd been working on these things with their child. And there's always a moment with kids with autism where then they generalize it to other things and tell a lie. And I think other parents get upset and go, oh no, my child is lying. But most autism parents go woohoo. But one autism parent called and left a message for the case supervisor and said, hey, yeah, about those deception lessons, just want to let you know we've mastered it. It's generalized. We can stop now. And hung up. And everybody appreciated that. But just the other day, a mom on Facebook, the reason why I wanted to talk about this today, because a mom on Facebook wrote it and said that she got called from the school, and the school said, we're very concerned because your son told a lie. And, you know, we have very strict policy about that, and we don't allow that, and you need to talk to him, and there's going to be this and so consequence for it. And the mom was on the phone and going, yes, 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 but she was going like this, dancing while they were saying, because she was so thrilled that her child had told the lie. Because she could deal with the consequences of telling the lie, but the fact that he had told one was a pretty awesome thing.
Yeah, imagine.
It's a good time. Well, Dr. Najdowski, we thank you for all the things that you share with us, and we're thrilled and we hope that you have a wonderful time at ABAI. Say hi to everybody for us and come back with lots of information for us.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, Dr. Adel Najdowski, truly a remarkable person. You know, I had the greatest opportunity to spend 6 months having her at my disposal for an hour a day where I could pick her brain, and I sincerely wish that all of you had the opportunity to do that, because it helped me so much. Helped me be a better parent, which, you know, what better compliment is there? We are going to take a break now and go to the A Word. This is an ongoing documentary being made by the Center for Autism and Related Disorders following a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. And at this point in the series, he's been having a couple of months worth of that intensive ABA therapy. He's starting to make progress in some directions. It's not always easy. There are times when it's hard, and there are lots of different things that are precursors that are being done that kind of look like, what's this got to do with anything? But we'll see in later episodes how these smaller skills go together and become bigger skills. So take a look. This is the A Word.
Hi. What are you doing? What are you doing, Jack. Say, I'm playing. Or I'm watching. You're watching. Are you watching me? What's this?
No.
What's this? What are these? What are these, Jack?
Eyes.
What is this? Are you looking? Jack, Riley, what's this? What is it?
No.
Yeah? So Suzanne, we actually have 3 new programs in his logbook. They are actions, body parts, and categories.
I noticed there's a notebook with pictures of Ellie. Is that part of it?
Oh no, that's actually, it's something really cool. Did you want to see it?
Sure.
It's something that his mom made, I think, before he started talking. So what it is it's just things that are in his environment that his mom cleverly made, which is really cool. It has like different foods that he eats, and I guess she did her own kind of can you point to the dog? What does it say? Kind of like her own kind of discrimination training, I guess, for him. Body parts. It's a really cute little book that she made. And he can label all of them, huh? What are these? What are these? Feet. What are these? Right here.
Toes.
Very good. All right, Jack. So we're going to be doing actions. We're math trying waving in a field of 2 with an unknown, just to see if he can discriminate between the 2. Give me waving. Good job. What is it?
Waving.
Waving. Very good. Good job, Jack Riley.
Jessica points at the correct answer after Jack Riley motions to the incorrect picture to ensure he answers correctly. This is called errorless learning. The reason we do this is that the more opportunities he has to practice the right behavior and be rewarded, the quicker he will learn it and succeed. It's positive reinforcement. Think of it like this. If you were constantly being told what you were doing was wrong and weren't offered help, you'd become frustrated and give up. But if you were assisted, you'd keep trying and eventually succeed independently.
Give me waving. Yay! What is it?
Waving.
Perfect. Very good. You get all your stickers. Then what do you get?
Whoa.
Perfect. Nice job. There you go. So the next one we're going to do is body part. And he is on mouth. So the SD is what is it? And we point to the body part on his own body, and he has to be able to label it. And he's been saying nose with me, because I guess it's close proximity, but let's see if you know it today, mister. What is it?
Nose.
Say mouth.
Mouth.
Good. What is it?
Mouth.
Very good. There you go. There's one sticker. Okay. Ready? Look at me.
Welcome.
Good job. Okay. What is it? Say mouth.
Mouth.
Good. What is it?
Mouth.
Nice job. Okay. Ready? One more sticker, okay?
I don't get.
Okay. Hey, put your arms down, Rockstar. Thank you. What is it?
Mouth.
Yay! All right, high five. All right. You got your 3 stickers.
3 stickers.
There you go. What do you want?
Whoa.
Say, I want phone.
Go.
Good job. Here you go. And with the receptive labels that we've been working on with him, he knows so many labels now. What's that? Say bear.
Bear.
What is it? What is it? What's this?
Tackle.
What's this?
Fire.
What is this?
Notebook.
That we've moved into categories. We're having him give us the picture of the category and having him label it as whatever category pertains to, like the food. Give me food. I did, yeah. I say like 1.5. Where's the food? Good job. What is it?
Food.
Very good. Nice job. Give me food.
Soup. What? Food.
Okay, give me food. What is it?
Food.
Food. Good job. turn. You want to go inside? Go inside. Run. Whee! I'm here. Woo! Ready? Set. There he goes. Say, let's go. Let's go. All right.
Jessica and Jack Riley are playing together so he can practice how to appropriately play with toys.
Are you all done, cars? Or you want more?
All done.
All done. Okay. All right. That's okay.
All done. Look.
Okay. All done blocks too? Okay. All right. Here, Jack Riley. Let's go for a walk. Sit down. Okay. Ready to go for a walk?
Yes.
Okay. Say, let's go.
Let's go.
Say, let's go, Suzanne.
Let's go, Mr. Chen.
Okay. She will come with us.
Coming.
Say, come on, Mom.
Come on, Mom.
I'm coming. I'm coming.
Last week during clinic, Cheryl and Mike brought up how outings had been difficult with Jack Riley not complying with stop or refusing to walk. Sabrina, their supervisor, suggested that they practice this skill with a therapist at least once a week until the problem behavior becomes better.
You can practice spell off in the brain. Okay, let's go. Stop. Yay! Good job. Stop. Stop. Come back. Yay! Good. Thank you. Let's go. This way. Stop, stop. What do you see? What do you see? Wow, we found a daddy on our walk.
Welcome back to Autism Live. That was the A word. You can watch that entire series on their very own YouTube page and see how this going outside and stopping, how that progresses, and then it hits a wall. And why it hits a wall and how they get over that wall, because we're talking about obstacles today, right? While we're talking about obstacles, I want to take just a second to give a shout out to two different moms who are bloggers. The first one, Diary of a Mom. Great blog that I enjoy reading. A mom of a daughter who is, I think she's probably 11-ish on the autism spectrum, and really a great writer. Somebody that I enjoyed reading a long time ago and still enjoy reading. And last night she posted about being at an event and that she was really excited to be there at an event, and one of the speakers got up to the microphone, and it was a young woman who is on the spectrum herself and was getting ready to talk about what helped her to be successful in college. And there was a gentleman sitting in front of her, and he kind of moved just slightly, and she couldn't see the speaker. And so she, tapped on the man's shoulder and said, "I'm sorry, excuse me, could you move just a little to the left so that I can see this woman speak?" And there was a little bit of a conversation that ensued between the two of them. And he moved, and it was a pleasant one. They kind of joked together, and then he moved to the side, and whoever she was sitting next to said, "Oh my gosh, you don't realize who that is, do you? You have no idea who you just had a conversation with." And she said, "No, I don't care. I want to see this young woman speak. That's what I came here for." And I just thought it was an amazing and beautiful thing, and really speaks to the heart of who you want to see in life and who are the rock stars and who. And of course, everybody was writing in and saying, "Tell us who the person was," and other people were writing in saying, "Don't you get it? That's not the point." Whoever it was wasn't nearly as important as seeing a role model example for what our kids can possibly attain. I thought it was a really beautiful piece. And then, of course, there's a little bit of controversy that's brewing, and so I want to give a shout out to our good friend Carrie, who her site is Autism Will Not Define My Son. And as many of you know, why am I going to get her name wrong? Toni Braxton has had a book that just recently came out called Unbreak My Heart. And apparently, and I've not yet had an opportunity to read the book, want to, but apparently in the book, on at least one occasion, she references and says, you know, there are times when I wonder if autism is God's way of punishing me because I had an abortion 2 years before I was pregnant with this child. And it's created a bit of a firestorm. And Carrie wrote a piece about it and expressed that, you know, she was sorry that that's what Toni Braxton felt, and that she disagrees, that, you know, that's not what autism is, and expressed her own opinions. And then the barrage began, and apparently it descended into some just people saying incredible things. So now the Autism Daily Newscast, friends of ours, the Autism Daily Newscast has picked it up, and Carrie has written a follow-up piece to say, hey, we are all in this together. And that, you know, we're all entitled to have our opinions, and we should all be entitled to discuss it, but we need to keep the conversation in a productive place with no name calling, and that if we turn on each other, and that she wasn't trying to turn on Toni Braxton because it's how the woman feels, which is not the question, but she wanted to give a response to it. So check it all out so that you can see. I will say this, that I've been in many conversations lately when I've been talking with therapists about what it's like being an autism parent. And in my opinion, I have said that every autism parent that you meet will at some point have been told by someone at least once, if not multiple people, many different times, they will have been told, this is your fault. I know I was told that. And sometimes I was told that, you know, completely out in the open, you did this. Other times it was just implicit, right? People acted in a way that they made it abundantly clear that this was my fault, that my child had autism. And I think that even though we all rationally know, and we should all rationally know, that this is not something that that anybody is to blame for, right? It's hard. It's hard to separate that, and we all have those little shadow beliefs that I love in Christina Adams' book, A Real Boy. It was so helpful to me where I was at, because I didn't want to admit that to anybody. I didn't want to say to anybody, oh, by the way, you know, I wonder if it's because I have these fillings in my mouth. I wonder if it's that I did this. I wonder if it's my fault that, you know, did I not look at him enough when he was little? All those little shadow beliefs that we all carry around that I didn't want to admit to. And then Christina Adams wrote in her book, there was a part in the book where she says to her husband, she sort of fesses up and says, I'm a little concerned that maybe I did this. And he says, well, yeah. And she says, oh my gosh, so you've been thinking that it's me too. And he admits to that. And they have a heated discussion about it. And by the way, she's no longer married to that husband. But you know, it led to me being able to have a conversation with my husband about, you know, was it my age? Was it this? And he said, no, I don't think that. But then when a study came out that showed that dads who were over the age of 45 were more likely to have children on the autism spectrum, he went through a bit of a depression, you guys, because all of a sudden it was, oh my gosh, what if it was me? What if it was that my age caused this? And I already understood what he was feeling because I had been there. He had not understood what it feels like when you're blaming yourself, but we got through it. But I'd love to lie to you and tell you that there is no part of my being that thinks that I may have done something, but it wouldn't be true. And I'm so sad that that's what Toni Braxton thinks. I'm so sad for her. But I don't, like Carrie, I don't disagree that we all have different things in our head that I wish at the very least that Toni Braxton didn't think it was a punishment. because even when I thought that I had perhaps done something to cause it, I didn't look at it as a punishment, and it would be nice if none of us looked at this as a punishment, right? Anyway, check out Tony Braxton's book, check out Autism Will Not Define My Son, but let's all be nice, right? There's no need to use harsh words. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, and he's going to be answering your questions, so stick with us.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The Skills Assessment and Curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes Skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The Skills Assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the Skills Assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Autism Live. It's that time of the week when we have Science Beat and Dr. Jonathan Tarbox is here with us. I swear this is my favorite time of the week. When we get an opportunity to talk with you. Dr. Tarbox is the head of research and development at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. He's also the director of the Autism Research Group. And beyond that, he is just a wonderful, wonderful resource with a beautiful, brilliant mind to be able to answer some of our questions. Now, I did have a topic that I wanted to talk to him about, and we'll see if we get to that. But as I mentioned yesterday, Dr. Doreen Granpeche wasn't with us, and we had a lot of questions that came in for her, plus a lot of questions for you today. So I want to get right to that.
Sounds great.
I promised the parent that we would get to this question first.
Okay.
They said, "Hello, how do I effectively block my adult son, who is taller and stronger than me, from banging his head on the windows in our house? He has broken several, and luckily has not injured himself. He does this behavior when he's frustrated, lacking attention, and sometimes in the middle of the night." And they said, "Thank you." So, talk to us, Dr. Tarbox.
Right. So this, to me, my first reaction to this is that this is a very serious behavior that, bless your heart, you're trying to deal with on your own. But honestly, that definitely rises to the level of this is when I need someone to provide help whose job it is to deal with these behaviors of this severity. There are people out there who are experts. That's all they do all day long. There's no reason why you have to go it alone. So the very first thing you should do is get a board-certified behavior analyst to come out, do a functional assessment, and come up with an intervention plan to help decrease the behavior, but also help you just manage your son's behavior and keep him safe, which it sounds like you're trying to do on your own, but honestly, it's too serious. Someone's going to get hurt at some point. He's either going to get hurt from broken glass, or even just from the force of hitting his head against hard objects, and/or you're going to get hurt because at some point you're going to try to block it with your hand or something, and you're going to break your hand. I mean, people are going to get hurt here. It's serious business. And the good news is it's totally treatable. There's nothing magical and scary about self-injurious behavior. It's just another thing that some folks on the spectrum do, and it's something that can be changed. And he can absolutely be taught something better to do that's more productive and safer rather than banging his head.
Okay, so I want to give you two resources that you can look at to be able to be hooked up with a BCBA in your area. First, I want you to go to centerforautism.com, go to the locations tab. They recently changed it because I asked them to, so it's by state. So you can look and see by state and see all the offices within a certain state. So you should be able to look very quickly and see if you live close to an office. If you do, don't call that office directly. Call the 800 number at the top of the page, but just look and see if there's something close to you. If you're nowhere near, you could still call CARD to do remote services, or you can go to autismspeaks.org, go to their resources tab, find your state, and click on, they'll give you a list of different services. Click on the one that's ABA providers, and you can literally put in your zip code and how many miles away you're willing to drive, and it will show you all the ABA providers that are close to you.
That's fantastic. And another resource too is BACB.com, and same thing. You go to, I think it's called certificate registry, I think.
Yes.
And same thing. You put in your zip code, or you can search by state, and it'll give you every single board-certified behavior analyst
There you go.
and where their address is and how close they are to you. So that's really important. For a behavior this severe, you really want someone with a BCBA certification.
And I think that's got to be your first thing, because you're going to want to know how you're going to pay for that, right? But if you call the BCBA provider and you get a good quality BCBA provider and say, this is what's going on, what funding do I have available to me? They'll be able to tell you if you have insurance, whether it covers it. They should be able to tell you, if you don't, who the referring agency is in your state that will help you to get this support. Please do not think, I cannot afford this, so I'm not going to do it, because Dr. Tarbox, it's not going to go away on its own, correct?
Right. That's absolutely right. The general rule with any kind of challenging behavior is if you don't get a good quality function-based intervention plan in place, the behavior is basically going to stay around forever. It might get a little worse, it might get a little better, but it's not going away until you really get a good quality function-based behavioral intervention plan in place. And no matter how good of a parent you are, you don't have to go it alone. As parents, we're not trained on how to treat severe self-injurious behavior, right? We don't know what to do. It's not our job. It's someone else's job. Let it be someone else's job.
You need to have help, and especially, in hearing all of what you were saying, my heart was bleeding for you. But what particularly gave me the chill is that it's happening in the middle of the night. So very likely you're not getting good rest.
Right.
And that's going to make everything so hard. So it's time for help. Don't feel bad about that. Get excited about that. Find the ABA provider that you want. Let them help you get the funding, and let them know how serious it is.
Yeah, and we say all the time on your show that challenging behavior is actually not part of the autism diagnosis. Self-injurious behavior, aggressive behavior, property destruction, those behaviors are not caused by autism, okay? So you don't have to settle for it. You don't have to think, well, my child has autism, therefore he's gonna misbehave. No, that's not correct. It can be treated effectively.
Okay, but you've got to get the right people.
That's right.
All right, and please do us a favor and write us back and let us know how that's going. And if you need more help getting an ABA provider, please let me know, and we'll do everything that we can for you, okay? Moving on to the next question. Good morning. My adult brother, 42 years old, makes up stories about untrue events and also complains about health issues that he doesn't have. This happens only at a day program, and they want to refer him for services to address his bizarre speech. He is not hurting anyone, so I don't know what the big deal is. He also sends cards to some of the female staff. He loves Valentine's Day, but he does not do any inappropriate touching. He just makes cards for them during arts and crafts. How can I help my brother just talk about true events and stories? Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, the first thing that I would say, and of course we always have to say we don't really know each individual case, right? But from your post there, it doesn't sound like the behavior is a real serious problem. And the number one thing that we do as behavior analysts before changing someone else's behavior, whether it's a child, whether it's an adult, or whatever, you do an assessment of what impact is this behavior having on the person's life. So if you want to decrease somebody else's behavior, you can't just do it because you don't like it or it's inconvenient for you. It has to be having a real substantive negative impact on that person's quality of life in order for it to be justified to change that behavior or decrease the behavior. So, again, without knowing this individual, it doesn't sound like a real significant problem. I would definitely say, and we don't know whether you're your brother's guardian or not, but you don't have to, and he does not have to submit to assessment or treatment for a problem that doesn't need to be treated. That's a major thing that a lot of caregivers kind of forget. They sort of think like when you go to the doctor, whatever advice your doctor gives you, most people are sort of prone to thinking like, oh, okay, yeah, they probably know what they're talking about. They have my best interests at heart. But doctors are people too, right? And they make mistakes too, right? And a lot of people just do sort of what their mentor trained them to do, not necessarily what the best thing to do is. And it's entirely possible that that's what's happening here, that the day program just finds the behavior annoying, so they want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
But annoying does not mean it needs to be treated and needs to be reduced. So that would be the first thing. You don't need to consent to that.
Yeah.
If you're his guardian, and your brother does not need to consent to that if you don't think it's a real issue.
And I too was looking at it and going, oh, okay, what's wrong with him making cards for the staff? It sounds like they're uncomfortable.
That's what it sounds like.
And it, sometimes there's nothing you can do about that sometimes, right? But if you wanted to be proactive about it and potentially have a conversation with those people and say, here's what's happening in light of the fact that there's nothing more than he's making a card, can we be supportive of that?
Right.
You may or may not get a good reception with that. I was talking earlier about the fact that my child was kicked out of the YMCA as a 3-year-old because he had autism. And really that's what it was, is that they got all concerned once we told him that he had autism. And one of the girls who worked in the daycare, so I would bring him to the little kitty care while I was going to go and work out. You see how well that worked out. They kicked us out. I could have found something else, but no. But anyway, they said that they didn't want him to come to the daycare anymore. And he was only in there for like 20 minutes a day, so it wasn't a big deal. But one of the girls who worked there, who was 21, said, I don't feel comfortable being around him. 3. He wasn't even 3. He was 2.5. And I, of course, as a mom, was like, we're going to fix this, because I can't have that girl thinking that and discriminating against my child. And I brought a therapist there to work with her, tried to have a conversation. It didn't work.
But good for you.
It didn't work. But I tried, and but there are some people that are going to be intractable, and they have their fears for whatever reason. But you do have to walk away and go, that's their problem, not mine, and not my brother's. And I say not my child's. And but if you wanted to, you could offer an IBT training for those people that you could pay for the staff to be able to watch, to have a better understanding. You could look for another day program, or you could just have the mindset of they're going to have to suck it up and just take a card. If that's their biggest problem today, they might get over it.
They should be so lucky.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's not, but... and I'm sure that it is annoying that he talks about events that didn't happen.
Lots of people have annoying habits. That's part of being a human too. Like people do stuff that's annoying sometimes, all of us, including folks on the spectrum.
And if you're going to work at a day care program for adults who have, other issues, they're going to have to suck it up a little bit.
Right.
That's the technical term for it. Ask them to suck it up. All right, I digress. Let's take a short break, and then we're going to come back with more questions that you guys have for Dr. Tarbox. Stick with us.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides courses in applied behavior analysis for the treatment of autism. Access IBT e-learning videos on the move and learn at your own pace.
I'm going to talk a little bit about intensity.
IBT e-learning makes any location your classroom on the go.
So our objectives for today are to really learn what is autism and how is it diagnosed.
Get professional guidance with IBT face-to-face training. IBT face-to-face training courses prepare you to effectively implement ABA-based interventions. Choose between small group and one-to-one instruction. Earn BCBA supervision hours via one-to-one video conferencing.
So I had a chance to review your BIP today. You know what? It looked really good. You did a good job with it.
IBT continuing education courses. Earn credit through webinars, conferences, article reviews, and e-learning videos. You can learn more at ibehavioraltraining.com. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are here with Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, and he is answering your questions. He is the head of research and development at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, and he is also the director of the Autism Research Group, an organization that does research that's meaningful for families that are dealing with autism right now. So we kind of adore him, right? And so moving right along, I want to get to the next question. Hello and good morning. What are some things I can do to give my adult daughter a sense of control? And I love that that's the way you start this question. Right now, she's using the bathroom, going several times a day, going to the bathroom in every store we go in, going right before we walk out the door. She will be in there anywhere from 10 minutes to 45 minutes. I think she likes making everyone wait for her. I have tried not taking her places when she uses the bathroom multiple times. She does not have any medical issues. I have opened the door sometimes and she's just sitting there biting her nails. We have also tried a timer and a token board. She does have OCD. Thank you for all that you do.
Well, it's always nice to get a thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, and I want to echo what you said. I really appreciate the perspective that the viewer is coming from, that not just how do I, stop this person from doing something bad, it's how do I give them more control, which is nice, right? Wouldn't we all like to have a little more control over our lives?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if it's true, and of course we don't know, each person is different, we have no idea, but if it's true that part of the reason why she's being in the bathroom for so long is to get people to wait, then it may well be a control thing, and so you might be onto something. And so things that we do frequently to help give control to folks on the spectrum is incorporate choice. So a lot of times there's, basically research has shown the more opportunities to choose that you give folks on the spectrum, basically just the better their life is. So less problem behavior, more happiness, things like that. Yeah. So, but what you might be thinking is, well, I can't just let her be the boss all the time, right? Of course. And many times you don't get to choose, right? Sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. Like, come on, you got to put on your shoes, we got to go out the door, right? Yeah. So a great way to incorporate choice when there really isn't much choice is to give choice about the way that things are going to be done. But for example, if you got to put on your shoes, you can't give the kid a choice or the adult a choice, do you want to put on your shoes? That would be nice, but if you got to go, you got to go, right? So instead you could say, do you want to put on your right shoe first or your left shoe first, right? So that the requirement is still there, but there's some choice in how it's done.
It's also positively assumptive that it's going to happen.
Right, exactly, yeah. And you're not making it a struggle. It's just, here's what's happening. Do you want to do it this way or that way? Right. Would you like to wear these shoes or those shoes? Not do you want to put your shoes on? Right. Things like that. And so the more that you build in choices to just everything you do on a daily basis with her, the more she's going to have control over her life, right? And so that should hopefully decrease the motivation to do other annoying things in order to get control. So if she already has a lot of control, she'll be less motivated to try to stay in the bathroom forever to try to get control. However, that might not, be the entire solution. So it sounds like you've already tried some things like timers, token boards, things like that, and they haven't worked. Usually when interventions like that don't work, it's because they don't have a powerful enough positive reinforcer associated with it.
Okay.
So if you use a timer just as a reminder, that's not going to work if the thing that you're reminding the person they don't care enough about to begin with, right? So if what it's reminding them of is simply what you want them to do, but they don't want to do it anyways, it's not really going to work, right? So you have to build in some other positive reinforcer. And so, you know, each family is different. You have to decide what you want to do with your family members. But if there's something that you can give to her or, provide that's highly motivating, then you can use that as a positive reinforcer. So it doesn't have to be something weird like you do with a kid, but it could be something that's totally natural and appropriate, like maybe she gets to choose what you listen to on the radio on the drive back.
But it's got to be meaningful to her.
It has to be meaningful to her, yeah. And it has to be something that's reasonable for you to give or withhold, right?
Right.
So it can't be something that she has a right to, period, like food or something, right? But it could be a treat, like if she really wants a treat, well, okay, you can have a treat if you, go to the bathroom for a reasonable amount of time. Or when the timer goes off, you got to come out of the bathroom if you're as long as you're done. And if you do that, then yeah, we'll get a little treat on the way home. Something small and reasonable, not something that's going to cause a bunch of weight gain or bad nutrition or something.
Right.
But something like that.
I think about the fact that I always have to go to Trader Joe's. I mean, I have to go to Trader Joe's at least once or twice a week. For those of you who don't live someplace where there's a Trader Joe's, I feel so bad for you.
It's a great grocery store.
It's a great, great store, and they carry different things that you can't get anyplace else. And my son, while he likes to have the things from Trader Joe's, he doesn't like to go to Trader Joe's because Mom likes to take time and look at things and look at the back and read the ingredients and chat with people along the way, right? But I can get him to go to Trader Joe's because it's right next to Best Buy. And I can say to him, so when we're done with this, the thing that we don't want to do, you're going to get 10 minutes at Best Buy. So I'm imagining if he was in the bathroom someplace and I couldn't get him to go, and I had the timer and said, this is how much time you get, and as soon as you're done, we're going to go to Best Buy. That's what would move him off the toilet and to going to Best Buy. And so something along those lines.
Exactly.
Whatever the motivating thing is, if you finish within the time that it dings, then we're going to go go get your nails done, or go pick out. You get to pick out the nail polish color that you want. Whatever means something to her.
And a lot of people feel hesitant to use rewards, especially with adults, because it feels like, well, he's not a dog. I'm not doing dog training or something like that, So it has to be something that's reasonable, right? Something that you can give and remove that isn't weird or inappropriate, right? So yeah, fine. Normally maybe you don't really want to spend 10 minutes in Best Buy, but it's not that big of a deal for you to spend 10 minutes in Best Buy, right? So that's something that's totally reasonable and normal. Like, yeah, okay, I can take 10 minutes out of my day to let you do what you want.
And it seems equitable.
Yeah, exactly.
I get 10 minutes in Trader Joe's, he gets 10 minutes in Best Buy.
Right,
that seems kind of on the fair side.
Yeah.
Rather than just taking him shopping all day and going, it's all about me.
Right.
Okay, so you do us a favor, try that. Try to up the stakes, find out what she really wants to do, what would be motivating enough to get her out of the bathroom faster.
And don't forget, though, provide control before that behavior happens, all throughout the day. Provide as many choice opportunities as possible so that she does have as much control and self-determination in her life as possible. And you may actually find that works by itself. It does sometimes.
Okay. All right. But I want to know. So do us a favor and write back and let us know how it goes, okay? All right. The next that I wanted to ask about twirling hair. Hi, and thank you for all you do. My 4-year-old twirls his hair a lot, mainly when he is tired, but other times he does it and zones out. I'm not sure if I should take it away from him if it soothes him, but what are some other replacements I could give him for this? You know what I love is that we're all learning so much. Because in the early days, I wouldn't have known, oh, that's about control, or I wouldn't have known it's important that I give a replacement for whatever this hair twirling is doing. So just gotta say, I love that we're all learning together. This is great. Okay, so Dr. Tarbox, what kind of replacement do we want to give for hair twirling?
Okay, so...
And she did continue on. I'm sorry to interrupt you. He twirls his hair at school, home, and in public. She just wanted to add that.
Okay, so it sounds like it's probably an automatically reinforced or self-stimulatory behavior. You don't know for sure until you do a functional assessment, but it's sort of a fidgety type behavior. Typically developing adults do it all the time, right? Like let's say you're sitting in a waiting room and you're bored. What are you doing? You're probably tapping your foot, or you're clicking a pen, or you're maybe twirling your hair, or biting your nails, right?
Right.
Or wringing your hands. So, first of all, it's totally normal that he's doing that, and it's not the end of the world, but I do see how it might be something that you want to get under, decrease to a more reasonable level, or something we frequently do with fidgety behaviors is try to find circumstances under which it's appropriate for them to occur, and let them happen as much as they want under those circumstances. So, for example, sitting in a waiting room, not the end of the world. Sitting by yourself, in your bedroom, or while watching TV, twirling your hair probably isn't a big deal.
Or while doing your homework.
Yeah,
you can
while
sit
doing
and
your
twirl.
homework.
I know lots of people, really smart people, who sit and twirl, men
While they
who
think,
will twirl their hair while they're thinking.
Sure.
It helps them to process.
It's not the end of the world, right? So, and then maybe pick some other times when it is more of a problem. So maybe, let's say during class, or if he's not paying attention to something he should be paying attention to. And then, in those circumstances, it might be a good idea to have some kind of replacement. And it could be something that's less noticeable. Sometimes some parents have used items that the individual holds in their pocket. And so you could put your hand in your pocket and still kind of fidget with something, but in your pocket, so it's less noticeable to other people. So those might be some places to start.
Yeah, and if you go online, there are so many fidget toys.
That's right.
But filter that through the age of the child and what would be appropriate in the setting, because some of those are, I think, worse than some of the other things. They have fidget toys that vibrate and twirl, and I mean, my goodness, who wants that in a classroom?
Even those are better than some
That's
behaviors.
true. That's true. But twirling hair, I think, is not as bad as that. All right. And again, write us back and let us know what worked, what you did, and what worked. Okay, because we can all learn from that. All right, we're going to take another short break and come back. We've got more questions that Dr. Tarbox is going to be answering. Stick with us.
Hi, welcome to Camp Discovery, a free-to-play suite of fun, interactive learning games for kids 2 and up, designed by experts in autism. Camp Discovery will open your early learner to a world of new skills, shapes, numbers, colors, locations, emotions, and more. Let's get started.
Please choose a level.
Objects. First, Camp Discovery's Intelligent Preference Assessment determines your child's preferred reward for choosing correctly. Okay, got it. Let's play. Camp Discovery creates a motivating learning environment for your child by minimizing incorrect responses and maximizing successful ones.
Find the shoes.
Respond correctly and your child is rewarded with their favorite animations.
You did it.
Respond incorrectly and our unique prompting system guides your child to the correct answer by making it the largest choice.
That's not it. Try again. Way to go.
Continue to answer correctly and the size gradually reduces until the child makes the correct choice independently.
You win.
Success! Rewards motivate learning. Complete a round and your child is rewarded with a fun mini-game. Track your child's progress with easy-to-read graphs. Multiple settings options allow you to customize Camp Discovery to your child's unique needs. All this in one single app, the Camp Discovery app, available for free on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon Store.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Science Beat with Dr. Tarbox. Dr. Jonathan Tarbox is here with us answering your questions. We did have a topic that we wanted to talk about that I think we're going to save for another time, because I love when we get an opportunity to have a clearinghouse and answer all the questions you guys have been asking. So let's start with this one. Hi, my 4-year-old son has recently become more picky with his eating. He used to eat eggs and oatmeal. Now he will gag and even throw up when we try to give him this type of mushier food. What kinds of things could I do to get him to eat more food? And they said, thank you for this show. I can't get enough of it. We so appreciate you.
That's sweet.
So Dr. Tarbox, we're getting some gagging and throwing up at mushier food.
Okay. Right, and so actually that also is somewhat typical. Plenty of typically developing kids are really picky when it comes to different textures.
Okay.
I myself cannot stand fruit when it isn't the exact ripeness.
All right, that's good to know.
So like if a banana is a little overripe or a little underripe, I literally just can't eat it. Or like apples, unless they're really crunchy, I just can't eat them.
And look, he's okay, right? So we have our preferences. It's good to remember that sometimes.
It really is, yeah, it's good to remember.
But having said that.
Right, and so, so first of all, start with that perspective, that it's not the end of the world, right? That kids have texture preferences, it's normal. And if you want to help improve it, the key that I've always found with all feeding disorders, and that is one of my areas of research and practice, is make it as least frustrating and scary as possible for the child, okay? So you already know right now that there's a particular texture or consistency, this mushiness, that makes the kid not happy and causes gagging or maybe even vomiting at some point. So you already know, okay, here's this one thing I can do to make the kid not happy during meal times, right? So what you want to do is back up quite a bit from that, and it's all about taking baby steps. And so what you'll want to do is introduce the smallest imaginable amount of that texture and immediately pair it with big positive reinforcement, okay? And so we've done this across a lot of different issues. We've done this with teaching kids to take liquid medication. We've done this with teaching kids to tolerate toothbrushing and dental exams. The idea is you start with a very smallest amount of the thing the kid doesn't want and introduce it very slowly with huge positive reinforcers. So for this kid, it might even be as simple as showing them a mushy, gross texture, right? And then immediately, and if they don't gag, immediately give them a positive reinforcer. And you have to figure out what is the appropriate positive reinforcer for your child. It could be a bite of their favorite food, right? Because if you're doing this during a mealtime, that's appropriate. So you've got a portion of food that they love and that they really want to eat, and then you have the yucky food that they don't want, and you start with the smallest amount. So just show it to them, or maybe, 1/8 of a bite of the mushy food, literally 1/8 of a bite. And if they take that and don't gag, you give them a whole bite or even 5 bites of their favorite food. You start with that. The key is you don't want to see gagging, and you don't want to see the really unhappy face. Okay. So if your child is able to take whatever that super small amount is, then you're good. That means you've succeeded already. You're not done, but you're already doing something that works. Now the next step is increase the amount of the gross texture just a little bit.
Incrementally.
Very slowly, okay? You should do it so slowly that your child doesn't even notice that you've done it, okay? So you go from 1/8 of a bite to maybe 1/4 of a bite, or maybe even less, like somewhere in between there, right?
The teeniest, tiniest
amount, okay?
Okay, but what if you gave that 1/8 of a bite and you got the face?
Okay, then I would back off and I would do a 1/16 of a bite. And actually what I would do is wait till tomorrow and then do a 1/16 of a bite. Or really even start with the step of just showing it to them. Saying, look, you don't even have to eat this. I just want you to look at it and sniff it, okay?
And you might have to do that for a week. Until you don't get the face.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally what we did with our research study on teaching kids to tolerate liquid medication. It was the same thing. We had kids that were just scared to death of it, would gag, would choke, whatever. And literally, step number 1 was just showing it to them. For an instant, we'd show it to them and then put it away and then give them a positive reinforcer, as long as they weren't crying, gagging, screaming, whatever.
Okay, here's my inappropriate question.
Okay.
So if we were to do that with you with the mushy banana, could we get you to eat the mushy banana without making a face?
Yeah, it would work eventually.
But
it would.
But who cares?
But who cares? Yeah, I get by okay. I eat a large enough variety of fruits and vegetables to where I don't need intervention. But that's always where you start with any of these issues with your kids is this something that really requires intervention, or is it just sort of a pet peeve of mine? You know? If your kid has a perfectly reasonable selection of already healthy foods and has great nutrition already and just doesn't like mushy texture, honestly, I wouldn't even bother with it for now. I would wait till later, because you can get by without eating very much mushy texture.
Yeah, you got to pick your battles where they do. And can I just say that from my perspective, people always ask me with Jem, like, how do you get him to eat the things that he does? And honestly, I think 2 things that we did that we didn't realize we were doing. First of all, I modeled it all the time. He has never seen me someplace without a vegetable going into my mouth, and I love my vegetables and I enjoy them, and so he constantly, everybody always says, what are you eating? Because I enjoy my food so much, right? So there's that. There was somebody modeling that eating the healthier behavior and the healthier foods, and I know that but it makes a difference. It does make a difference. I can be with somebody else's child that they say never eats anything, and I'm sitting there eating my red peppers, and the child wants my red pepper. So just know that. Modeling it makes a difference. And also the fact that I swear that because we had his diet so restricted for so long, my son is a food adventurer. We go into Whole Foods, and he's like, can we make that fish? He wants squid. He wants octopus.
Wow.
And I go, I don't want to cook took that. I don't want to know about that, right? But every time we go to the store, he's like, what can I try today?
That's really cool.
It is very cool, and I swear that it happened because there were so long that he couldn't have things. You know, this is the child who's never really had birthday cake. So he looks with fascination and goes, what is that thing that you're eating? What does it taste like? What does it feel like? He wants to know.
That's really cool.
And so usually if he's doing well, we go to the store and he gets to try one new thing a week. So I think there's something about taking it away from them that makes it really attractive to them that, yeah. So that's just my 2 cents there. All right, I want to move on to another question. Hi, Shannon and Dr. J. Love this. I was wondering, my son that is 4, he has a lot of language and it's spontaneous, but at times not very creative and can sound a bit apraxia. Does this tend to get better or will his speech sound different? I'm very happy he's talking, but don't want him to be made fun of because of how he sounds. Thank you for your awesome show. Now, my question is, do you really mean apraxia or do you mean prosody? When we have, you know, the people like Ben Stein who says, you know, the Bueller and now does the Visine commercials, and there's
prosody, yeah.
You can't tell whether he's being sarcastic. You can't. There's nothing in the lilt of the language to convey meaning.
Right.
So I'm not sure whether that's what you mean or whether you really mean apraxia, which my understanding of apraxia is when you want to be able to speak, but the mechanics, there's something about the brain connection, you're not really able to speak.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in it, but I think it's basically just difficulty with producing speech sounds and manipulating speech sounds and things like that. But yeah, but either way, whether it's one or the other, basically what she's, at least from my perspective, what she's describing is he's learning to talk, which is awesome, amazing, and it just doesn't sound natural yet. It sounds a little funny. Maybe it sounds robotic. Maybe it sounds repetitive. Maybe it sounds kind of the same from time to time. And yes, that is definitely something that you'll want to work on. But no, it's not the first priority. The first priority is get that talking happening and encourage that speech as much as possible. So my first thing that I would say is, when you ever work on this issue with your child, don't make it a big deal. Do not make it frustrating for your kid, because you never want to make speech and talking frustrating or anger-provoking or anxiety-provoking for a child who has a speech delay. Okay. So that's number one. But number two, if you do want to encourage more varied, more natural-sounding speech, the number one thing that we need to remember as parents and as therapists is we need to use natural sounding and varied speech. Okay. Because it's really easy for us as parents and as clinicians to prompt our children or our clients the same way over and over, right? So if your kid wants milk, you might say, you might do a modeling prompt like, I want milk, or can I have milk, okay? But if you say that in the same tone of voice over and over every time you prompt it, that's what they're going to learn to do, is imitate that, right? What you're doing is reinforcing imitation of your speech, right?
Okay.
And so they're going to sound like you. So when you hear like the ABA therapy voice, like pick up, touch your head, and it's the same thing over and over, that's a red flag. That's a sign of a bad quality ABA program.
Okay.
What you want is varied, natural sounding speech. So when you're working on this issue with your child, you want to prompt him to say the same thing in multiple different ways, like different words for the same sentence or utterance, and different tones of voice at different times. Do not do the same thing over and over.
Really important point.
And so literally for every single thing that you want your child to say, you're going to have to beforehand think of 5 different ways to say it. Okay. And prompt all 5 of those ways with different tone of voice at different times, and make it fun. That's the important thing.
Okay, great advice. I want to move on to the next question because we're running out of time. Hi, Shannon. This is the best show ever. We love you. You get a lot of information, makes you happy because you have a son with autism, and I do. And they go on to say, I have a beautiful son with autism. He's 5 years old now. He's smart, and I want to help him, but I didn't find a quality ABA provider, and she says Miami, that she's in Miami. Now, I know that CARD is getting ready to open a new office, but I don't know how close it is to Miami because I'm not, my geography calligraphy skills
Yeah,
are
I'm not
challenged.
sure either.
But I know that CARD does remote services in Florida, and that a new CARD office is opening in Florida, which makes the remote services not as remote, even if it's in the far end of the state from you. So I encourage you to keep watching on the CARD locations tab for where the Florida office comes. But in the meantime, Dr. Tarbox, wouldn't you say that they should put in a call to the 800 number?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And if CARD's not able to help you, there's plenty of other ABA providers there, and we can definitely refer you out to somebody else. So they need to just keep in touch.
I will say that we have a big Florida contingent that is beautifully led by a good friend here that has been a viewer since the beginning, and we've had a lot of people complaining about that there aren't enough good Florida providers. And
That's interesting because there's a lot of providers, but you know, to tell you the truth, a lot of providers out there, as you know, are just not very good quality. So
and
could be a
one
problem,
provider
too.
in particular that we've had a lot of complaints about. I you know, at some point I'm going to call them up and say, do you know people are complaining about you?
Yeah, you should.
And here's why. But so keep looking, and there's a whole group of you there, and I want to encourage you guys to have conversations with each other to learn from each other about who's using which provider and what results they're getting. I think that's a really...
Do they have a listserv or a parent group or something like that they can use to contact each other?
But you know, I think I will propose that to our Florida contingent. And I, if you're watching, I think maybe it's time for a group. And I can help you to set that up. Okay, so next question. I have a 6-year-old son, and we have 4 different agencies. What types of questions should I ask prior to hiring a new agency? Because 4 is a lot, and whoever your funding provider is, I would encourage you to say, this is too much for a parent to handle.
Right.
And if you've got 4 different agencies, and it might be that one is your OT and one is your speech, I don't know, but that's a lot to keep track of, and it would be easier for you and probably better for your child if you had something that was more comprehensive.
Yeah, unless the 4 agencies are doing 4 different things, which is possible. There could be one speech, one OT, one ABA, and one tutoring or something else.
Right, but even then I would want them to be talking to each other through skills. There's a feature in skills that you can do that, and they can have conversations, and everybody can be working on the same thing.
Right, yep.
So you're not being counterproductive.
Absolutely. So that's something that they could check out if they're not already familiar with skills. Do a free trial and just see, you know.
Skills for autism. But back to her question about what kinds of questions do I ask?
Right. Okay. So I'm assuming it's an ABA, a new ABA agency maybe that she's interviewing or talking to. And man, where do I even start? There's so many things.
Yeah, and I've got one more question I want to get to, so we've got like 5 minutes.
You know, probably the first thing I would ask is, what kind of outcomes are you getting with your kids? Describe to me the last 5 kids, you know, that you treated and how, you know, what their outcomes were. What kind of gains were they making? I would definitely ask, what kind of gains can I expect to make for my child? And they shouldn't promise you the moon. They shouldn't promise you a cure or anything like that. If they're doing that, that's not realistic and it's not honest. But they should be able to give you a well thought out, reasoned answer to that, you know, that talks about potential, you know. So something like, well, what we always say, which is the truth, is I've never met a single child with autism who couldn't learn, no matter how severe or no matter how mildly affected. Every kid on the spectrum can learn, and every kid's behavior can be improved, right? Every human being's skills can be improved. If they're alive and they're breathing and they're awake, they can learn something.
That's my favorite part of the week when you say that. It is. When you say that everybody can learn, because that was always my fear, that what if my child can't?
Right,
and that they all can make progress, that fills me up, and I go, okay.
So look for that attitude. That is the number one thing that your agency should be conveying to you, is that they have that perspective. Not an unreasonable perspective. We're not talking about people selling snake oil that are a cure for whatever ails you. I'm not talking about that, but a reasonable expectation that your child is going to make progress. That's the number one thing. I'd also like to know about their training. I'd ask for a detailed description of their training procedures and the history that the leaders have in the organization, the BCBAs. How long have they been treating kids with autism? You know, how extensive is the training that they give their staff? How frequently do they supervise their staff? those sorts of things.
All really good questions. Some of the things that that I recommend is that they talk about how do you plan for generalization.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, thank you for reminding me of that. That's
Because-
absolutely one of the top priorities.
Because if anybody ever hesitates in that answer, then you're not in the right place.
That's right. Absolutely.
Because they should know exactly what you're talking about, and they should have their answer because they should have already planned for it. Now should not be the moment in which to plan for it.
Right. Exactly right.
Okay, so lots of things to think about. And you shared with us about a year ago now that you sat on a panel for the state of California to help determine, it was a big paper document to help determine what a good quality ABA provider program was like. We still have that somewhere, that if somebody would like to read that, I'm sure that we could find that for you.
Yeah, we probably could track that down. I don't remember exactly what ended up happening with that. I think it was one of those things where the committee, who knows what, but yeah, we could definitely get them some resources.
It was good.
Yeah,
there was some good work in it.
You know, another good resource too is the Behavior Analyst Certification Board released those guidelines for treatment of autism, and it's pretty good. I mean, it's not detailed enough, but it's a great place to start. It's a pretty good skeleton of here are the basics of what you should be looking for.
Okay, great.
And they can contact us for that. We can forward that to them.
Okay, wonderful. I want to get to this next question. Hi, my 50-month-old, we've only got 2 minutes and I got another comment here. My 50-month-old is finally not having any pee and bowel movement accidents during the day.
All right, very cool.
Now, how do I help him with night training since he uses a night diaper at night? Well, there is the question, right?
Yes, that's a tough one, yeah. The first thing to do is take a deep breath and not worry about it too much. You know,
yeah, celebrate what you've got.
Yeah, celebrate your success.
It'll come.
And then, you know, the evening beverages, liquids in the evening is the number one thing. So definitely, you know, no fluids for the last hour or two before bedtime is going to go a long ways towards that. Now, don't dehydrate the kid. Make sure he's drinking plenty of fluids earlier in the day.
Right.
But definitely not a significant amount of water or juice or other fluids in the couple hours before bedtime. That's the number one thing. You can always try some kind of reward in the morning, first thing in the morning, if the diaper is dry. You can also try waking your child up in the middle of the night, taking him to the potty, and then putting him back in bed. That's going to be rough for you. It's going to be kind of rough for him, too.
It's a lot rougher than cleaning the sheets, though.
Right. Yeah, that's
it's a lot easier.
Yeah, that's for sure. Those are the places to start. If you've tried all of that stuff and none of that's working, there is a device called a wet stop or a wet alarm, and it's a little alarm that actually the child wears in their underpants, and there's a little moisture detector there that when moisture contacts the device, it makes a beeping sound.
Okay.
So it's kind of it wakes them up. It's kind of a reminder. That actually works pretty well too.
All right, we're completely out of time. I just wanted to say that the other parent wrote in and said that they were talking about prosody, that it was inflection.
Great.
And there are lessons for prosody in skills.
Yeah, but practice different prosody over
Absolutely.
and over, not the same thing repeatedly. Lots of different examples of prosody, and make it fun though. It's going to be frustrating and difficult at first.
We're all the way out of time, but thank you so much for all your help. Thank you all of you for being here with us and being a part of this conversation. We're going to be back on Tuesday. Have a wonderful extended weekend. We give a big shout out to all of our military families that we're remembering all of you on this weekend. Be back with us on Tuesday. We've got an amazing show that I don't have time to tell you about, but trust me, it's great. Until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you. Bye-bye for now.